The second season of The Sandman has arrived, and although the series stays very faithful to the comics, it still leaves many questions unanswered for those who haven't read them. Who are the Endless? What are their powers? What are their realms like? What are their actual functions? I'll be answering all of that for you in today's video. Starting literally from the beginning, Destiny is the eldest of the Endless, the first to exist, but he has a different origin compared to his siblings. In fact, he was already a character introduced in comic books long before Neil Gaiman became well known, and before he introduced the Endless. What happened was that Gaiman repurposed the character and integrated him into the group. He is now seen as the oldest because when existence began, it already had a destiny, and so he has always been present since the beginning of everything. It has also been shown that he will be one of the last beings in existence before death fulfills her final role and takes the universe to its inevitable end. He is described as stoic, immutable, and even cold, since he knows the future and understands that nothing can be changed. He is not exactly warm or welcoming, as he simply reads the Book of Destiny and does what it says he will do. This attitude is a double-edged sword. He is not driven by hatred or joy. He merely follows what is written in the book. When it comes to his siblings, he has little to say and prefers solitude. Curiously, he was the most willing to accept Destruction's departure and abandonment of duty, perhaps because he felt no emotional attachment to him. Furthermore, at Morpheus' funeral, Destiny gives the first speech as the eldest sibling, seemingly without expressing any grief. He states that the ceremony is to pay respects to Dream, and then finally to forget him. For Destiny sees things as they were, as they are, and as they will be, and the way he sees it, Dream was the lord of things that were not, things that are not, and things that never will be. His realm is called the Garden of Forking Ways, a labyrinth that represents the journey of life. However, the garden is not the only part of his realm. He also has a great house where his gallery is located and where a grand table stands, a place where his siblings used to gather. Those who come to his realm do so by his invitation, and when he invites, it is because the book says it must be so. As for the book itself, its pages contain all knowledge of all things past, present, and future. The book appears to hold supreme power, as it seemingly cannot be destroyed or taken from Destiny. Still, on occasion, comic stories have broken those rules. A good example is when Lucifer Morningstar tore out one of its pages, but Destiny calmly affirmed that this act was already written. Unlike most of his younger siblings, Destiny doesn't have specific followers. While individuals may be bound to feel desire, despair, or delirium, Destiny is a path that all must walk, even primordial beings like the Archangels. Continuing on, Death was the third of the Endless to appear in the comic book world. Introduced as Dream's adorable older sister, she quickly became a fan favorite due to her personality and attitude and for being so different from what one might expect Death to be. She's such a captivating character that she's made appearances outside of the Sandman series, which is quite rare for most of the other Endless. Like her brothers Destiny and Dream, Death appears to be much older than her younger siblings, because when all things came into existence, they were alive, and therefore Death was necessary, and she was already there. Originally, billions of years ago, Death was as grim as one might expect. Mortals and gods trembled in her presence, as there was no light in her eyes, only the inevitability everyone feared. But that changed over time, especially after she adopted the habit of living and dying as a mortal once every 100 years to understand what it's like to have an encounter with her. Death's realm is one of the least explored domains among the Endless, and it never received an official name, but it has been referred to as the light at the end of the tunnel. Importantly, her realm isn't actually where souls go when they die, but rather a sort of transitional space. This is likely because the author wanted to incorporate multiple mythologies into Sandman, which required many different afterlives. Some of the places where Death has taken souls include the Greek underworld, heaven and hell from various religions, and the mansions of silence. She can also alter the appearance of her realm at will, as shown when she was visited by Orpheus and Tim Hunter. She has even stated that she has the power to do almost anything, but she simply chooses not to, as she sees no reason to do so. She can turn any being into an immortal, and likewise, she can kill anyone with her powers. The only exceptions are those under a higher protection, such as Lucifer, who claimed that Death cannot claim his soul. As a multiversal necessity, she is omnipresent. Any part of creation that contains life and will eventually face death also has its version of her. This was shown when she entered the multiverse created by Lucifer, as even his vast powers couldn't keep her out. Despite being Death, she is also responsible for the process of reincarnation and for bringing new life into the world, as seen during Dream's funeral when she gave life to a clay doll. Her symbol is the Ankh pendant she wears around her neck, a symbol that represents life but can also signify immortality and the cycle of existence. But moving on to the protagonist of the series, there has been more than one dream in the comics, and the one we currently follow is actually the second. The Endless do not experience a true end, but they are not literally immortal. Only their essence is. So while they can die, their function, powers, and traits are passed on to another being. That's what happened to Morpheus at the end of his miniseries. After his death, his position was taken over by Daniel Hall. The two are essentially the same entity, but Daniel represents a different perspective on Dream, and he is the most frequently appearing Endless in DC's main continuity. The entire Sandman comic series revolves around the first Dream's point of view, which raises theories that the way we see the Endless is merely how Morpheus perceived them. Dream has multiple aspects, one for every race, people, or creature that perceives him. He appears differently to Martians, cats, Africans, and more. Each sees the god of dreams from their own perspective. Dream is in truth part of reality itself. Just as death brings life, dreams shape the real world. If 1,000 cats dream the same dream at once, that dream becomes reality, because dreams mold our world. His mere presence warps the universe. When Dream fell in love, everything capable of dreaming dreamed of his face, and everything that could dream had dreams of love. Gods are also born in his realm, supposedly created by him to serve under his command, and they die there as well. His realm is called the Dreaming, the place all dreamers enter when they sleep, even though they forget it upon waking. Within his domain, Dream is nearly invincible and can reshape it at will. Besides the dreamers, there are also the dreams themselves. Countless beings, including Cain and Abel, who are the guardians of mysteries and secrets respectively, along with many others. When Dream was absent from the Dreaming for 70 years, he returned to find it dying and in disarray, implying that the realm depends on his power to remain stable. While the other Endless often showed indifference to mortals, or at least avoided close bonds, the first Dream sought multiple mortal lovers and made several mortal friends. Interestingly, the second Dream doesn't seem to share the same openness, but he has interacted with several heroes, most notably Batman. His symbol is his helm, which he wears in battle to amplify his power. He also carries a pouch of sand and a ruby forged from his essence. These items are so powerful that even without Dream's direct influence, they can manipulate reality, affect human minds, and extend lifespans. For a long time, Destruction was known only as the Prodigal mentioned, but never seen or fully explained. In many ways, he is the most obscure of the Endless, and among his siblings, he's considered the most foolish for having abandoned his post as Destruction several centuries ago. However, it seems that stepping away from his role has made him far wiser when it comes to understanding the Endless and their true functions. Unlike Dream in his realm, Destruction's domain appears to operate just fine without him. Things are created and destroyed across the universe without requiring his intervention. Like his siblings, Destruction represents more than just literal destruction. He embodies both the end and the beginning of all things across the multiverse. This includes not only material things, but also identities and abstract concepts, like the loss or birth of an emotion. Change itself is what Destruction represents, transformation in all its forms. His realm was never shown in the original Sandman series, but in side stories it was depicted as an empty space with a sword at its center. And moving on, Desire is the only one among the Endless without a defined gender, which is surprising considering that none of the Endless are truly living beings. They are anthropomorphic concepts, and in theory, none of them should have a sex or reproduce. Yet they have proven otherwise more than once. Among the siblings, Desire is perhaps the most disliked, possibly due to their relative youth, being younger than almost all of the others except the next two. But Dream seems to harbor a much deeper resentment toward Desire than the rest, and it is Morpheus whom Desire most enjoys disturbing. Desire has even disguised themselves as one of Dream's aspects without him noticing. After all, Dream and Desire aren't so different at their core. However, their twin, Despair, not only likes Desire, but the two are nearly inseparable, since where a desire goes unfulfilled, despair is born. Desire's realm is called the Threshold, and from an aerial view, it reveals the shape of Desire's own body, a statue in which the entity lives at the heart. While there is nothing to compare its scale to, the Threshold appears to be the smallest of the realms, as it's the only visible structure within Desire's domain. Desire's primary symbol is a heart, likely meant to represent how easily a heart can be ruled by desire. Despair is another character who has had two incarnations, though unlike Dream, of whom we've seen both versions, we've only seen the first Despair. She does make brief appearances in flashbacks, including one particularly interesting conversation with the god Raui. In it, she suggests that a planet should harbor life and then have everything destroyed except for one single life form, which would grow and live in her despair. In other words, despair may have played a role in the origin of Superman. The second Despair appears to be much less independent and more desperate than the original incarnation. She is usually silent and doesn't seem very sociable. Her mannerisms and voice can even frighten Delirium at times, though it doesn't seem like Despair is trying to scare her sister on purpose. Her domain is called the Gray Realm, a place filled with mist and countless floating mirrors in which people gaze at their reflections and Despair gazes back at them. Her symbol, which she always wears on her finger, is a hook-shaped ring that she uses to pierce hearts and drag them into despair. However, she doesn't reserve that barbed hook only for those who fall into her hands. She also uses it on herself. Despair is a masochist and has been seen using her hook to cut into her own face, even bursting her eyeball, with tears rolling down her cheek. Moving on again, Delirium of the Endless is unique in many ways, perhaps the strangest of all her sisters. Originally, she was Delight, but an event involving Lucifer caused her to change and become Delirium, though what exactly happened has never been revealed. We know that her older brother Destruction helped with her transformation, which is one of the many reasons she cares for him so much. Interestingly, it's unclear if this change was meant to happen, since even the Book of Destiny doesn't hold the answer to how it occurred. While she is unstable and slightly insane, she can sometimes shift her personality to its opposite, becoming a logical and straightforward thinker, though she says this pains her greatly. If Delirium were placed at the age of her siblings, she would be the youngest, and among them all, she seems to fit best in that role, never truly maturing. Her realm, called the World of Delirium, is as mad as she is, depicted as a vast variety of colors, words, objects, and directions. Most who enter are no longer able to leave, and she has even threatened to trap Dream there forever. Delirium wields near omnipotent magical power. She can create anything she imagines and distort reality, including manipulating the minds of others. She also has the ability to foresee events that haven't happened yet. However, her prophecies often don't make sense until it's too late, but they are not siblings merely because they fulfill universal functions and are anthropomorphic aspects. The characters are actually the children of two entities that are rarely explored in the comics. Time is the father of the endless and the personification of primordial time and existence as a whole. Together with his lover, Night, he made all of creation possible. However, in the present era, Time and Night are separated and estranged from their families. The character constantly shifts between a young man, a middle-aged man, and an elderly man in a random pattern. His powers surpass those of all his children, and he has demonstrated abilities such as dimensional manipulation, reality manipulation, and time manipulation. And finally, Night is the mother of the endless, but she seems rather indifferent toward her children, showing little concern for how they are or what they do. She is a cosmic being who predates creation, embodying the absolute void. Night first appears bathing in a pool of darkness, singing a melody that draws her son Dream. After visiting their father, Dream goes to his mother, who appears more humble than Time. She offers him shelter in her realm, a small copy of her own domain, but Dream refuses. She then expels him, condemning him to the black hole he used to reach her. Night is based on the Greek goddess Nyx, and little is known about her powers, though they are inferred to be far greater than those of her children. And it's precisely this character who wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, you know what to do. Leave a like down below and tell me which of the endless is your favorite. Send it to that friend who knows nothing about comics and help the channel keep growing. Thanks and see you next time.